Okay, start recording.
Brilliant. Welcome everybody to the Sprint 3 kickoff for website integration with the Brand Partner Portal. We're really glad to have everybody on board, and we're hoping that we've refined everything so it should be really straightforward and easy for all of you to go through this process. So I'm just going to share my screen. I'm hoping this will work. Can I just get a confirmation that you can see this?
Yes, we can see it.
Perfect. Okay. Right. Problem is I can't see it. Okay. So we're just going to start off with a couple of housekeeping things for everybody. So the first is just that everybody's on mute at the moment, which is great. We're just going to keep you on mute due to the numbers in the session. But if you do have any questions as we go along, if you wanted to pop those into the chat box, that's fine. We can pick those up kind of as we go along if it seems like it's relevant to the bit that we're presenting. Otherwise, we'll wait till the end. And then we do have a question and answer session at the end of this where you can use the hands up function in Teams just to verbally ask any questions that you might have. And we definitely welcome questions. So if there's anything that you're not clear about or anything that's confusing you, please do shout out. Okay. I'm just going to mute that. Okay. If for some reason there's a question that you have and we can't answer it right now, we will follow up in writing to make sure that you get an answer to that question. And as you all know, this session is being recorded. So just a quick overview to say that the agenda is, and I haven't moved along to the agenda. So I'll do the introductions. My name is Elisa. I'm the program manager for the Brand Partner Portal. And I'll also talk you through the timelines for this sprint. And then Christopher will give you a brief recap of what website integration is about and sort of the way that it will work once you've input all of your contents into the portal. And then Raf will go ahead and walk you through organizing and managing the integration. So this is the nuts and bolts side of things. And this is sort of what this group of people here will be working on during this sprint. And then Raf will also discuss with you the resources that we have on hand to help you. And then we'll have a question and answer session at the end. So just moving into the introductions. There are 21 partners, and I've listed them here for you so that you can see who else is in this sprint with you. In case you want to talk to each other, that's 100% acceptable. This isn't an isolation sort of exercise, so it is great if partners can kind of help each other out. You may meet each other in the drop-in sessions that we've put into your calendars for Wednesday. The drop-in sessions are not mandatory, but they're extremely helpful if you have any kind of little glitch that comes up or any kind of questions that you want to ask about where you are in the sprint at the time. And we found in Sprint 2 that in some cases partners were able to help partners by sharing what their experience was with a particular issue. And this is just a quick question for you, for Christopher to keep an eye on here. Can you please put your hands up, just your virtual hands, if you personally have had interactions with the CMS for the website? And we're just trying to get a feel for the sort of skill set in here. Okay. Brilliant. So that looks like 14 people in the group, 15. Brilliant. Thank you so much. 16. Great. Okay, so it seems like the vast majority of the people in here have worked with the CMS, which is really good because that means when Christopher comes to present, you will have your head around some of the things that he'll be talking about, which is great. Okay, so the last bit from me this afternoon, is just around the timelines for this sprint. And I know that we have sent these out, but this is just a really quick reminder to say that obviously we're kicking off today. Everybody will need to have scheduled a one-to-one with Raf, where he'll kind of walk you through, just you and him, the process for putting your content into the portal templates and how all of that works. He will be mentioning at the end about how to do this, but if you haven't booked your one-to-one, please can you make sure that you do that as soon as possible. The one-to-one sessions are running from tomorrow until the 20th of May, so it's only 2 weeks, but there are loads of time slots available, so please make sure that you book those if you haven't already. And then stage 2 is what happens after you've had that one-to-one with Raf, and that's about the sort of the nuts and bolts of adding your content to the portal. The deadline for having your content ready is the 30th of June. And then we will be checking all of that content and ready to schedule go live meetings from the 1st of August. I realize August is quite a dead month, and so we're kind of taking a little bit of a suck it and see approach as to availability. So some of those meetings may bleed into September because of people's annual leave. So moving on to the next bit, Christopher is going to start talking you through the website integration recap. So just what it's all about on a sort of higher level. So Christopher, I'm happy to go ahead and continue to present. And you just tell me when you're ready to move on.
Okay, thank you. And I was just going to say to people, if you have questions, put your hand up, but obviously don't leave an old hand up from when we were asking a question before. So just because we'll get confused. So I'm going to turn my camera off because you don't need to see me, but just to kind of introduce myself to them. Some of you that might already know me, and for those that don't. So I'm Christopher, I'm the Network Digital Manager, and I work across the websites mostly, but I'm involved with this project as well. So when we come to talking about the portal, what we're looking at is the kind of connection between the websites of the local and the national sites. So if you look at the current national site, this is what it looks like. It's just it kind of has about it has a different look and feel to yours, but it's for the national site, so it doesn't kind of deal specifically with your local partner charities. And if we go to the next slide, then you should be familiar with this, and this is the kind of standard template that you have for your local sites. We call it Anytown because that's the kind of just general test site that we have, and you should be familiar with the look and feel of it. Some of you will have room hire, some of you will have shops, and some of you will have byproducts. Just to kind of flag that you shouldn't have you shouldn't be operating TAMs anymore, so trading alliance members. So we will be working our way through, and probably as part of this be taking those byproducts tabs off. And the same as with the room hire in the shops, you might have them, you might not, depending on your services. But obviously your services, activity events, get involved, and about us, you should all have on your website. And if we go to the next slide, we'll see that that's, for most of you, you'll know it's controlled by the CMS. So this is kind of familiar with you, you'll know how it works. You have your pages on the left-hand side, you have your kind of content blocks and media on the right, and you kind of can preview what's going in the middle, and then you publish it, and you're kind of in control of that. But it doesn't have any interaction with the live site. So it just kind of exists on its own. And if you want to put in, if someone wants to find your services, they have to know that there's, for example, an Age UK Leeds or an Age UK Bradford or a Sheffield or a Bexley. They need to know that, and because they wouldn't find that information anywhere else, and that does a lot rely perhaps on your digital marketing if you do it, but if not, it will just be on your SEO. So if we go to the next slide, we'll kind of see the difference between the national and the local partner sites. So yeah, the national site gets on average about 2.2 million hits a month, whereas your average local site gets about 4.3 thousand hits a month. So what we're saying is there a big discrepancy in data, which is obviously going to be the case in terms of hits. But what we want to do is we want to pass the traffic on that the national site is getting to your local sites. But the only way to do that is to have something tangible to pass it on to. So now if someone went to the national site, they'd be able to find there was a local Age UK in your area, but that was all they'd know. They'd have to come to you then to find out exactly what was going on. And the same as with the call centre. If somebody rang up the national call centre and someone was looking for help in a local area, they would just kind of maybe check our local directory as it currently is, or they would kind of look at the websites or any information that we had, and it wouldn't be particularly full. So if we go to the next slide, that kind of demonstrates kind of there's no joined up data across the partners. So you've got 130 partners, and they just put their content straight into the local EPI server and publish it that way. The national has a list of local Age UKs, and then that gets pulled out on the national website. The national helpline kind of looks at one or the other and doesn't really know how to tie all this together. So the way that we've kind of come up with a solution for this, because we're not all one standard website, you are individual businesses and you are individual charities, the best thing is to kind of have a kind of conduit between the two. And if we go to the next slide, this is what we're talking about. It's called the Brand Partner Portal. And the part that involves the websites is this part, which is the portal part. And it's kind of split into different areas. And what this is it's taking the data that you use for your services, activities and events and shops. For this exercise, I'm just going to talk generally about them, but for the work that you're going to do, it's just going to be services and shops. And it's kind of breaking that down into a different format. So instead of kind of curated journeys through those sections of the site, will be kind of data-driven ones so that people will filter by data and categories. So don't get too scared by that, because I'll show you as we go along what that means. But this is the kind of interface to what the portal will look like. And there's different areas that it's broken into: your organisation, your locations, your shops, the services you deliver, community signposts, which might be something like, the local, not national like 999, but maybe your local police station, if you want to include that, or your local doctors, your local hospital, that sort of thing, and activities and events. And if we go to the next slide. So on your current Epi server, you would put these services in the services section or your shop section, and you just put them in as pages, you create them, and you can edit them accordingly. But now what we're going to do, so if we go to the next slide, we're going to have two systems kind of running it. So you'll still have control of your website, and you'll still run Get Involved, About Us, Room Hire if you have it. We've left the shops arrow on there, but we shouldn't have had the shops arrow there. But those bits will still be run by the CMS, your news, you'll still have control of your homepage and all those sorts of things. But we'll just ask you to put the data for your shops and your services into the portal, and eventually for activities and events. And what we will do then is be able to run your site in a different way, and you'll have slightly different looking pages, but it'll be a better experience for the user to find what they're looking for. And also for you to be able to kind of keep a record for national about what services you run and for other things that run in the portal. So if we go to slide 16, this is the kind of look and feel that your sites will now have. Now we've used Lancashire as an example because they were one of the early adopters, and we're still working through some of the issues with them. But you can go and have a look at these sites if you want to. So this is, and again, they're not 100%. Correct, because we're still refining the process as we go, and they were pilot partners. So this is what you could possibly do with the pages for Lancashire as they've done. So like things like the images are optional. You can add those if you want to, but it does add kind of some interest to the page. But you can be able to put in blocks and information at the top of the screen, but then you'll have a kind of filter area where you'll be able to filter for the different services that you want, and also by postcode. So someone could come into your site, put in their postcode and say, I want to know if there's any foot care near me, and it would list the nearest foot care service. Now, a lot of you might only have one foot care. If you're in London, you might only have one, but if you're kind of outside London, your areas of benefit are much larger. You might have 3 places where people can go to get foot care, or vice versa, where foot care will come to you as a service you supply, and the system will supply this. So what we ideally want is that you move all of your content, and this is part of the process, from the live site, copy it and put it into the portal templates, and then we will redirect your final pages, the current pages that you have for services, into your portal pages. And so we kind of have this standardized look of data across the site. Now, so on your site, that will work really well. You could be able to filter by all these different areas, and then you'll go into these different pages and you'll have the kind of data that's easily updated. And if you go to the next slide, this will also get pulled out on the national site. Now, this is just the working version of how the national site it works, because we don't have that live yet. We've got to have enough of you live in order for it to be a good user experience for those searching on the website. So if I've only got 4 partners live, that's not going to work very well for them. But this is how it would look. And then what would happen is someone might search for a service, as they do now, or they might search for a local Age UK. But if they were searching for a service, they might look for home help within a certain postcode. It would bring up a home help service within that postcode and tell you what Age UK it was. And when you click on that, we don't want to keep them on the national site. We want to send them to you. So when we send them to you, the direction they get sent from the national site to the local site, there'll be a little alert to say you're now leaving Age UK national and heading to whichever Age UK it would be. and then you'll arrive at that page with all the details that the intro is just pulling off from the national from the portal, and that you would have seen on the national site. That's it basically. I think if you look at if we go to the next slide. Yes, some of you might have, so these are the ones that are already integrated. So that's Bristol, Lancashire, Sunderland, Wiltshire, Worcester and Malvern Hills. Now I think one of those also has some activities and events in there, but we're still refining those at the moment. And if you then go to the next slide, you'll kind of see the kind of for the user, it's a better way, and for the Age UK and for the helpline, a better way to kind of access this information. So the local partner will put their information in, the website pulls out that information, the local websites pull out that information, and also the national helpline can go and get that information as well, but it's all stored in the portal. And you can also have people who aren't perhaps web skills, with web skills to use the CMS, they're just using a portal form. Which is like a Microsoft form where they can just fill in and update the data that way. It doesn't require the same sort of understanding that the CMS does, but obviously for your news and the other services that you run, the other sections of your website, that will all still be run through the CMS. So that's a very whistle-stop tour of what we were talking about in the kickoff session before. So this is just to just to kind of remind you of those things. And so now I'm going to hand over to Raf, and then we can come back later for any questions.
Hi everyone, I'm Raf. I'm going to be the main points for all of you in this process. I'm going to be helping you organizing, managing your rollout basically for the portal. Just before I get onto that, Christopher, I think there's a specific question that you can answer in the chat about SEO.
Yeah, just looking at it now.
All right. So at least if you can go to the first page for me, thank you very much. So the main thing that we're going to be using to work with you is the Google spreadsheet, which by now all of you should have links to. And if you haven't already, just please, again, email us and we'll try and sort that out for you. If you have, also just try and familiarize yourself with it. But again, the one-to-one sessions that we mentioned earlier will be reiterated with this as well. I'll just talk you through it more specifically. But in today's workshop, I'll just kind of talk in a broader sense of how we're going to be using it to interact with you. If you could go to the next slide for me, please. So just to give you an overall overview of how the process is going to be within my section of it before you move on to Christopher's. So the first part, again, as I said, is going to be the Google spreadsheet. That's going to be the main and key thing that we're going to be using to communicate, the main thing they're going to be using to input all of your information that will help you when you actually start inputting your content into the portal. From that, you email portal access, the email in the next block. You let us know, and I go through it and check. And the way I'm going to communicate with you, I'll show that. I'll show it to you in a few moments. I'll let you know whether there's actually any amendments that need to be made, and we'll kind of work back and forth with you. And if you need to make any revisions, then I'll let you know that, and of course I'll help you with any clarification that you need within that as well. And from that, if everything is signed off, we'll move you on to Christopher's team to get your general website to go live and have the website integration signed off. If you can go to the next slide for me, please. So within the Google spreadsheet, you're going to see there's a lot of tabs underneath it. Don't be scared of it. They're all to help you manage this process, because we've had a few sprints and we've kind of continued to refine it. And we believe this is the best way to help you make it as easy as possible within this process. So I am now going to share my screen and talk you through this list. Bear with me 1 second. Could someone let me know what you're seeing, please? You seeing the
Google spreadsheet.
Yeah, great. All right.
Yeah, thanks, Raf.
So in the first tab is the instruction, as you can see here. This is the main part where you can get all the information that you need. For example, some of the main parts that you need to familiarize yourself with is the digital hub, where we've put all of your guides. So for each section that Christopher showed you earlier, there's guides specifically available that you can go through, and it will help you fill out the forms for those sections. So locations, services, as well as here, shops, events and activities, which we'll come back to later on, and third parties as well. Any emails that you want to, any queries that you have generally to do with the portal, you just grab this email and you drop us a message. So here is the main part that I mentioned earlier, where I'll be interacting with you to get any amendments and revisions done for the forms that you filled out in the portal. Here, the first column C is where I'll do, for example, at the top here, I'll put in a link of one of the services that you've completed, and I'll give an example of an amendment that needs to be done. And these two columns are mainly for you. This is where you communicate with me, because again, sorry, I didn't mention this earlier. If we were to use email, an email chain, we would kind of be lost just based on the sheer number of partners that we're rolling out and how I'm going to be going back and forth with you. So we just thought this is the more streamlined way of doing it. So for example, once I've let you know this, I'll drop you an email to let you know to check back into your spreadsheet. And when you come in here, you can make any note that you want in here for me to see if you haven't been able to do any amendments that were required. But if it is done, you just click here and you select no. If it's pending, you just let me know so that when I come into your spreadsheet, I'll know what's going on. If you want to make any specific note within for that service, you drop it in here. And anything after that, so all of this mainly is for us to confirm within our project team that it's been done, and it's been done, for example, by me, and I've signed it off for Christopher and so forth. The next one, actually, I'll leave this till one of the last parts, actually. So the next one is content and redirects. This part as well, we'll focus more on it in the one-to-ones, but it's basically an audit that you can do within your CMS, where you pull out all of the live pages that you have on your current website. And from that, you can kind of rationalize it and figure out how many services you have, how many shops that you have, for example, that you've listed on your website. And with that, it will help you fill out all the rest of the things in this spreadsheet. So the next part is the locations. This is one of the most important part of the portal and how it works. Other than your head office, excluding your head office, every location that you have, you need to list it into the portal. And for that, we have given you this tab for you to rationalize that section. You can fill out all of your locations here, fill out any details that you have for that location. And these are the details that you will be required to fill out in the portal. So if you have it here, generally, it will be easier for you to just have this spreadsheet opened and have the portal open whilst you're inputting your content. And we believe this will just kind of, again, smooth out that process for you. And here is the categories that you can select. I'll come back to this again later on. And moving on to the main part, services. Again, these are all the questions that you need to fill out in the portal. And we've kind of listed it out for you here so that if you have a befriending service, you list it out as a befriending service or foot care service, and you fill out all of these information for it, contact number, if there's cost related, if there's any extra fee details that you want to add, if there's any specific email addresses, if you have a specific service manager, you put all the information on here so that when you get to the portal, you put all of their information on there, and they become kind of like the owner of that service, and they can go in and make any changes to that service. The next one, it's the events, which at the moment it's kind of part of an overall website integration, but due to development issues that we have, I think Christoph kind of made a mention of it earlier, we will be supporting partners on this aspect next year. So at this moment, it's kind of reduced work for you guys. So we'll come back to this again, but for this part, after you've done this rollout, we believe it's going to be even easier for you to do this section as well once we get to it. Again, the next part, community signposts. So these are all third-party services that you don't own and you don't run, but you want to highlight to people in your area. So any, for example, NHS services, GP surgery, even, for example, recommended plumbers or builders and things like that. You can work with them, get them on here and fill out all their details and make sure they're, of course, insured and are working with you. I think we do extra backgrounds check for this, but I'm not particularly sure about that side. So we'll come back to you on that again. The next part will be your shops. If you do have shops, not everyone has this functionality. So for your shops, you don't have to add the locations, as I said here, but for everything else, you will need to have an associated locations. But for your shops, this will kind of be a mixture of a service and a location. So once you fill that out, you'll be able to list out the postcode and you'll be able to pull it out as a location itself. But within this, you can also use it as like a service information where you pull out all the description of the shops. You can link it to a eBay page that you have, for example, and you let any visitors know the time that you're opening, any like access and accessibility information that you want them to know about. I'm going to, oh, sorry, I think there's the last one. Before that, let me just catch on this one. So categories. This is also a very important part of the portal. Most of your services that you do, sorry, not most, nearly all of your services that you have needs to be linked to a category. So this is where you tag them, and this is how we are pulling it out and filtering it on your website, and also how we will be pulling it out on the national website when that's live as well. Most of these should be relevant to what you currently have, but again, if there's any specific ones that you use and you need add-in, just drop us an email again at Portal Access, and we can work with you to see whether there's something that we can add, or we can try and fit it into a category in here that is a bit more general. And lastly, it's the preview pages. So on your website at the moment, I've gone through each one of you and set up a preview page. If you have a shop, it will come up as a shop preview LD page, and so forth for services as well, and activities and events. So if you have shops, you have that. If you have services as well, you have something like this. For now, you have the activities and events, but you don't need to use it. Within your CMS, there's a functionality that you can hide certain pages now, which doesn't show up on the in the search functionality. And that's what we've done for all of these. So no one is going to be able to see when they are using your current website, but you will be able to see it just using these links. And it's just to help you. It's just to help you see what you're currently doing in the portal. Once you fill out any content in the portal, it gets pulled through onto your CMS, and on here you get to see how it looks like. It updates every, I think, in 15-minute increments. So after 15 minutes, you can come and refresh that page and see what it looks like, and you can go back into the portal to make any further changes or customization that you want to make for that service. And that's that part done. I'm going to stop sharing. Lisa, if you can share your presentation again for me, please.
Okay. Can we see that?
Yeah.
Sorry, I've gone backwards in the presentation. Bear with me. Okay, that's the next one.
Yeah, thank you for that.
No worries.
So this is what it's going to look like. This is what the services page is going to pull out into your CMS as with the preview page links that I just showed you. And also for the shops as well, if you have it, it will pull out like this. Again, no one is going to be able to see this other than us and yourselves unless you have provided people with this specific link. If we can go to the next slide, please. So like Christopher mentioned, again, from all of the things that I just talked about, once it's all signed off and you've made all your amendments and you're happy with it as much as we're happy with it, I then pass you over to Christopher, and hopefully we can get your services and shops, if you have them, live onto your website, and it would look something like this. But again, you can change it and customize it just how you want to communicate with older people in your area. Next slide, please. So for resources, we do want to continue reaffirming that we're here for you across every stage of this. We're not going to just leave you to it. Anything that you need, there's no stupid questions. You can ask it however many times that you want for us to keep letting you know exactly how you should be doing certain things. So within this, as I said, I'm the main point of contact. So that's the top one, Raf Ghali. And then there's Christopher, who you've probably worked with a lot with the EpiServer/CMS. I'll move you onto him once everything is signed off, and he will help you manage the website integration. And then there's Teresa, who's a project support, who helps us in the background as well to get everything sorted and organized. And Alison as well, who's the portal access. So at the moment, you just need to figure out how many people that you want to give access to. The main person that has access for your portal is able to give access and invite other people onto the portal. And that kind of links to what I was talking about earlier with the services. So if you have service managers, you can invite them to this and get them to kind of manage their own services after you've put in all the content that you want in there. And if you haven't already, please book your one-to-ones. It's going to be with me. I will talk you through this more specifically to do with your website, and I'm sure you can talk more freely on any questions that you have when we have that one-to-one. If you want extra sessions after the one-to-ones, again, just drop us a message, and I'm always available to set that up as well. And from the 18th of May, we'll be having drop-in sessions that it's mainly kind of combining Christopher's CMS/EpiServer and the portal. So if you have a lot of questions to do with the integration of these two systems, just come along, ask questions. If you don't, you can come along and sit through other people's queries, and you might take a lot from it, as we've discovered in the previous sprints. Any questions that you have, we'll be having themes as well weekly. So 1 week, for example, we'll be talking specifically about how you use your locations. The next one will be how you use your services. And sometimes Christopher will jump in and talk to you how this integration is working and how you should be kind of working with the portal and the website to make it a better experience for your website visitors as well. Lisa, if you can go to the next slide for me, please. So again, these links are on the instructions tab in your Google spreadsheets, but the digital hub is your main point for guides and general information of the portal. These are the links here, and for any other upcoming webinars, workshops, or future communications, it will be coming. It will be available via the AGK Loop Network Infrastructure Hub as well. So yeah, generally please just make a note of this email, portalaccess@ageuk.org.uk. That is the main email that you should be using for any queries that you have or any alerts that you want to let us know about. And that's it. The next part will be a Q&A, so it's open for all. Please don't be shy. I think, again, there's no stupid questions. Just feel free to ask us anything. If you want us to expand it further, we can have a different session to do that. But questions help other people as well to understand this better. So thank you.
Thanks, Raf. We've got some questions. First one is Scott. So it's portalaccess@ageuk.org.uk. That's the email address for Portal Access. So if anyone wants to just type it in the chat window. I'm just going to answer two questions though. That we've had one from Josh, and I just wanted to kind of reiterate what I was saying to him. His question was more about SEO and the effect. So because we're going to put redirects on your pages, well, you will put redirects on your CMS pages to redirect them to thanks, Raf. Redirect them to the portal driven pages, but from a user perspective, all these pages live on your website. They don't see any differentiation. You know, we might refer to the portal, we might refer to the CMS, but from a customer's focus, they're just going to be just web pages on a website. So the other thing to think about is with the work that you're going to do, don't think about how you're going to. I mean, you can consider how your website might change. You might have multiple sections in services, but for the moment, what we want you to just focus on is copying that content. Don't delete anything, don't unpublish anything, but just copy that content into the portal and then look at how it's going to act on the on the pages that we will give you access to on your websites. They'll be hidden from search engines and they'll be hidden from users, and then you can preview them that way. And then when you're happy with the content, we're happy with the content. And it's not that we're going to say your content is right or wrong. It's just more like, have you checked the spelling for this? This is what we're thinking about for the content. You might want to consider content in a different way, breaking down your IMA into different services, all those sorts of things. So it'll be a discussion between us and ourselves and you, and there'll be no right or wrong. So once you put all that content in, then you can worry about like unpublishing pages, but you'll do that in a session with myself. So again, that's nothing to really worry about at this point in time. And AD asked a question, which was what would be the location for an online class, for a Zoom class? So this comes down to the differentiation between a service as an activity and event. So that would be an activity and event, which until activities and events are up and running, you might want to not worry about that at the moment. But when they were, you might have, for example, if it was an online exercise class, you might have a service which was exercise, and you would just say in the service, we run exercise classes in various locations, and if you want to find out about them, you can go to our activities and events section. And the service is just to say that this is a service and it happens, we run it, it's an Age UK service. It's either run in at our venue or it's run in the community. But if you're then talking about an activity and event, that's a specific event that happens at a place and a time. So maybe a lunch club, it might be an exercise class, it might be a yoga session, it might even be like a general AGM or something like that. You can put it into the portal and then it will be pulled out with a location. And if it's an online class, there is a box that you can tick within the portal which says this is an online class, and then the address doesn't show, and you can put in a link to where that would take place online. So that's how you would deal with that. Obviously, at the moment, although you can think about your online classes and how they would work, we're not really doing anything until the activities events is up and running. So the spreadsheets are going to be emailed out to you. I don't know if they've gone yet. We're just having a discussion about that. I think they've all been created, but we just got to send them out to you and they'll be sent to you directly. So you don't download them, they're just like online documents, and then you just fill them in. So it's easier rather than emailing backwards and forwards to say, you know, we've done this, what do we want to do? All of this gets logged in one spreadsheet that you can both view online, and we can look into it and you can look into it. and then it has all the information in it, and you'll each have your own specific separate one, and it will also have the links for where you can view your preview pages, which currently when you get them will probably be empty because there will be no content in them. So the photos in the portal, sorry, AD has a question, which is the photos on the portal look like they have some shading. Is that how they will look? No, there are no, so the photos are like the CMS. So the way you get photos onto the portal is you put them in your CMS, and then when you go and look at that image in the CMS, it gives you a link, and then you pop that into the portal. You just have to have it the right size, and then the portal will pull that image out, so that all your images can be stored in the same place, which is at the CMS. So the shading, all of that, it's just an image. If you decide you want to have a blue or a green one or anything, any design that you did on those images, much like on your website, they would come through onto the portal. And Josh said, what size do these photos need to be? We've set up if you go into the image sizes link on the CMS, we've kind of added these extra sizes in there so that you'll know what to look at. For the small ones, it's still the standard 467 by 222, but that is in the spreadsheet. And for the larger ones, the width is kind of important because we want it to fit on the page, but the depth is less important because you don't want it to take up too much space. So yeah, so that's why you have a lot of flexibility. And also, if you don't want to put images in the portal, you don't have to. If you don't want or if you only want images on the landing pages, when you go into, like, say, foot care service page, you can have one there, and you don't have to have them. You know, it's quite flexible. You don't have to have those images, and they wouldn't be things that we would say when we were checking your content. If your image was disfigured, maybe that's the wrong word. If your image was warped in some way, then we would say that you needed to change it because it looks wrong. But at the same time, at the end of the day, it is your website. So we're just focusing on the content and have you use the system right, and have you use the system for how it's going to get pulled out on the national site. The look and feel of it is a lot down to what kind of effort you want to put into it. If you don't want to have any images on it, you don't have any images. So there's lots of spreadsheet questions, so I think they're going out. And I don't know if I've missed anything. So has anybody got any questions that I might have missed, or Elisa, Raf, have I sort of not made anything particularly clear?
Just to say that I've popped the link for booking a one-to-one into the chat. So if you haven't booked one, you just need to click on that link and it'll take you through the process and let you know what time slots are available.
Yeah, and those one-to-ones, as Raf said, it's as far as I know if they're still done the same way. It's just to kind of give you a quick potted history, but a very specific one for your age UK. So we'll create a service with you. I think that's what Raf's going to do. Correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe create a location with you just so you know how it works in the system.
Yeah. Every part of it will create an example one that you choose, or we can just create a test one, just so that you're familiar with each section of the portal.
And although it sounds like we're just throwing information of brand new systems at you, as soon as you see it, you'll just kind of go, oh, okay, I see what it is. And all it is, we're not asking you to redesign your website. We've kind of done that bit for you. What we're just asking you to do is just put your data in a way that the system will handle it, that will pull out on your website and pull out on the national site, and it will just give your sites a bit more standard consistency in the services that you offer.
Christopher, also there's a question from Josh about the portal sizes. I'm just sorry, the portal sizes, the image sizes for the portal. I'm just really quickly going to share this. Can you just walk everybody through?
Yes. Sorry, I have to make my screen bigger. So these are the standard image sizes you can see, and if you go to the left-hand side, the right-hand side, it says Portal Local Directory, and then it will list the types of images that are across the left-hand side that you would use in the CMS. It tells you which pages you can use them on for index pages, content pages, whatever, and then it'll also list, so like 720 by 343 is a content page image which you can use on your services and your events and your shops, and then the 467 by 222 you could use for your the smaller image listings. But when you'll see these tags when you go into you'll see these titles when you go into the portal, and it will tell you which one to use. But again, that's something we'll just show you in the in your first one-to-one, just to kind of where these are, what they get pulled out like. So for example, Lisa, if you just go to Lancashire, if you don't mind.
Yep, bear with me for a sec. Sorry.
That's all right.
I've got the leaderboard up.
I apologise.
I'm just going to open the leaderboard. Sorry, bear with me for a second. I have to take a fairly circuitous process. Do you want the Lancashire services, did you say?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
So if you look at this, so this long image at the top would be a standard index page image, because that's the index page, the service page is a standard. So I think it's in the list. I think it's 900 something. The sizes are in there. If you scroll down and look at the smallest images, these are the standard accessible size images that we use on the site, which is 467 by 222. And again, if you put them in, they appear. If you don't put them in, then they don't appear. But you obviously have to have consistency, because if you did Loving Later Life Day Clubs Nelson with an image, and you did Loving Later Life Day Clubs Lancashire without an image, you'd have this, some with, some without. So it would be uneven. So again, there's nothing wrong with that. It won't break anything. It just doesn't look great, but you have the flexibility to add those in. Does that answer your question, Josh?
The other thing just to mention, Christopher, somebody asked a question in the chat about the colors of the images, and I think this is what she was referring to. So I think Lancashire used a filter over there. So it's just like a style decision that they made.
Yeah.
And I think that was referring back to that question. This was totally their decision. So you obviously can do what you want to do for your own pages.
If you've got a design resource internally, or if you go in and use something like Canva, you can use Canva for free, and or Photoshop or something like that. But for very low level stuff, Canva's a really good thing to do. You can just kind of drag in the images, assuming you have the rights to use them, but you all have Brand Hub in order to do that. So you can get images off of there if you want to, and then you can use that to kind of create anything like this. We don't necessarily support. I can kind of point you in the right direction to do it, but in terms of how we support the CMS and how we support the portal, we wouldn't do that for Canva or Adobe, because it's a different skill set. But again, it's something that you can either use Brand Hub for, or you can use something like Canva because it's free. But again, you can use whatever imagery you want to. That's a design process for images, which would be external really to the portal functionality. So if there's anything else, just pop it in. Like I say, there are no stupid questions, because if you're thinking it, the chances are somebody else is thinking it as well. Alan, go ahead. You can speak if you want to.
Yes, please, because I unfortunately I don't seem to have the chat on my machine at the moment. But it's just a quick question on the spreadsheet. I'm just wondering, there seems to be a lot of duplication putting all the data into the spreadsheet and then into the portal. Can we cheat and only put some of the data into the spreadsheet and then put all the data into the portal, or is that not allowed?
So it's not a case of allowed. So we've given you, and Raf will kind of reiterate this. So we've given you the spreadsheet purely as a way, if you want to use this, I mean, there's certain things you have to use the spreadsheet for, because the categories are in there. So that's the place you'll see if you want to kind of decide what categories to tag services with. You'll see them all in there as a whole thing rather than within the system. And the guidance is there, the links to the guidance, and also the kind of, we call it the checklist. So if when we come back to you and say we're not sure about this, that's where you'll comment on that page. But and the links to your previews, but all of the other things that we put in there, you don't have to use them. And we've just put them in there to kind of give you a template and kind of say this is what the portal will ask you to do, because it might be that you're going to put in services across your organization, but you don't actually know what they are, or you want to have a kind of let somebody else have a look and put them in there. So if you don't want to use it, you don't have to use it. It's just more like if you want to use it to rationalize your data, to kind of break it all down, because you might have services that aren't represented on your website, that's when you can use it. You might want to add to that, Raf.
Yeah, and I think it depends on the number of your services as well. If you think you can manage it outside of this spreadsheet, then by all means. But like Christopher said, it's just to help you like list it out so that if other people are working with you on this, they can see how many you've actually gotten the information for, and how many you've probably done, and things like that. So yeah, up to you. Just there to help you for those sections. But for the launch checklist and the preview and also the categories, those are probably things that you're going to be constantly having to go in and out of.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Alan.
So Jess and Liv, I've said you said you've received the spreadsheet, but you don't have access. Is that because you've lost the link? Or because it doesn't let you in anymore?
Hi, we do have the link still, but when I click on it, it says request access it's no longer available. So I did request it, but I still haven't been able to get in. We did have it a while ago though. I think we were on like an older like section of people.
Oh, were you in one of the pilots?
I don't think so.
Right. Okay. We'll have a look. I mean, I don't know. We'll investigate that and see what happened. What age code are you?
AGK Lambeth.
Oh, yeah. You sound like I think you probably were one of the pilots. I remember.
Okay. Thank you.
It's okay. Anyone else? Like I say, you will have questions, so you let it percolate, go away, and then if you want to hold, I don't think we're doing a drop-in session next week, are we?
No, the first one's the 18th of May, so it gives people time to have their one-to-ones and to start sort of getting to grips with spreadsheets, and also to make sure we've got everybody available for a drop-in. So I just wanted to mention about the drop-ins. Everybody should have that as a like a calendar thing. It should be in your calendars, so that you can join any Wednesday that you want to. There may be some Wednesdays when you don't want to. If for some reason Wednesdays maybe aren't a day that you work, or you can't come along but you have some questions, obviously get in touch with us and we can try to sort out that answering those questions outside of a drop-in session.
But yeah, I mean, you'll all have questions, so it's we know that. We're not expecting you to have kind of grasped everything just from this session, so that'll be fine.
Definitely ask questions.
Yep. So I like a stunned silence, as I say. So if you're not all banging your heads on the desk, like I say, it seems like a lot of work, but it's not. What it's doing is just kind of adding in this new system, which means that a lot of the website updating can be done by people who don't have to use the CMS. Obviously, the CMS will still be there to run like your news sections and other parts of things. It's not a kind of power grab for all your websites. It's just a better way to display your information and also to display it onto the national website as well. And at the end of the day, that benefits older people, which is what we're all here for. So the more that we can get that information out there and make it accessible, make your services and activities out there, the better it is. So yeah,
that's pretty good. We've kept to time pretty well. So if this has been recorded, as you're all aware, and we will post it on the WordPress site where all of this information lives for the brand partner portal, and we'll make sure you have a link to that. So if you do want to refer back to it, you can do that. But I guess if there aren't any other questions, we can close it down and just reiterate, if anything comes to mind after this, please don't hesitate to get in touch with us.
Yeah, and just to add, make any notes before your one-to-ones and we can talk more about it. So yeah, looking forward to seeing you all.
Thanks everybody for coming today, and have a good rest of your afternoon.
thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Thank you very much.